Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with yet another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. Today, I am interviewing Sarela Herrada, who is the co-founder of Simpli, an ethically sourced ingredients company with the largest mission of transforming a fraudulent international supply chain. Serela focuses on domestic and international operations, marketing and sales, and has contracted over 150 million in purchased spend and developed relationships with more than 200 suppliers. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for having me here today.
So give us a little bit of, your background and growing up. I know you grew up in Peru. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yes, I grew up in Lima, Peru, in South America. I moved to the United States when I was 14 years old. But back at home, my parents ran a small chicken coop of organic chickens to support Lima. So growing up, I was very close with farmers coming in and out with feed of animal. My mom developed her own formula in order to meet certain standards that she thought it would be better for the animals, and just really grown around agriculture my whole life. My dad later on in his life went into growing camu camu, which is a superfood, super rich of vitamin C, 400 times more than an orange compared to the vitamin C content in the Amazons right in Peru, in the border of Colombia and Brazil. So just being familiar with agriculture since I grew up. And when I moved to the US, my mom got remarried and had a very typical immigrant story, moved in, didn't speak English when I joined high school, and but always very active into sports. And I'm really thankful that my parents really put that on me as a little girl, and I was able to being able to be part of the community quickly and learn English within a few months, and always thrived in academics. So I had a really good transition and went to college and up in Pennsylvania at Penn State. And once I joined the corporate world, I started doing consulting. And it was really there when I saw and I learned. I did consulting for one of the largest food distributors in the US, UNFI, which does the majority of distribution for Whole Foods in retail. And I learned how to really move cases in and out and how the domestic US logistics worked. I did some work for Nike as well, but it was really food where my passion grew. I went to work for a small coffee company after that. And most recently, I was part of Cava, which is a Mediterranean fast casual based in DC, over 150 locations to date. And I was the head of supply chain, procurement, R&D, and again, anything to do with food. And it was really there where I saw the white space for the consumer, how the consumer wanted to know more about its food, where it came from, support those local farmers. But how do you do that for items that just don't grow locally? And you still want to carry those values for your food and know where it comes from and the nutritional profile of it, or how it's washed, processed, the people behind it. And that's really where the idea of Simpli came about.
So talk to us a little bit about the problem right now with the supply chain.
Well, today's world in supply chain is probably a little bit different before COVID, but overall in the food world, what we are trying to accomplish at Simpli is to tackle fraudulent international food activity while combating climate change and improving the livelihoods of our farmers and their communities. So we are in a global economy, and sometimes some items like olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, that we work with farmers and Sparta agrees and bring that item to market in the US, is the number one most fraudulent food item, period. with upwards of 70 to 80% of bottles sold commercially being fraudulent. If it's, misguiding the consumer from where it comes from, or its nutritional properties, the level of antioxidants, when it was harvested, and the list goes on. So we just wanted to be able to provide transparency to the consumer so the consumer can be educated on making those decisions. And we believe by having the information, you're being able to choose what's right for you and really understand what are the items that will be able to fit within your diet or not.
Okay. So let's go back to the olive oil. So when you say like when it's harvested, and I know there's different grades of olive oil. So maybe that's saying on the bottle that's extra virgin and it ends up being from a second pressing or something like that.
Yes, that's absolutely an example. It could be that extra virgin olive oil, by definition, is the first press of the olive root, but it also, on paper, needs to have the maximum of levels of ethanols with it is 0.8. So if you have a really great harvest and you have the first press and it's around 0.2 or 0.5, you have some room to the maximum level where you could do some mixing, maybe with second or third press, because the regulation allows you to do so. So that is one part that we've seen on the fraudulent activity. Second has been country of origin, really just telling the consumer if the olive oil is coming from Greece, Italy, Spain, or versus Morocco or Turkey or Argentina, just really telling the story, right, of the product and being able to champion what's behind it, so the consumer is informed.
So now another thing you said was country of origin. Talk to us a little bit about, kind of what's going on with that sometimes. I know that can be mislabeled too.
Yes, country of origin can be mislabeled per bottle of where the country. If what's very common in the industry is having some extra virgin olive oil from Greece, which is usually a higher quality from the Koroneiki variety, and exporting that to other countries, and using that to be able to meet that requirement of antioxidants in the bottle, and labeling where the country is being bottled, or carrying that country of origin of Greece, even though it has been mixed with other olive oil from other countries. And then it gets messy because it can also be from different harvest dates, or it could be from different regulations. Every country is very different onto labeling and requirements than the FDA is. So it just gets into a really messy world, rather than what we do at Simpli is we just focus on single origin ingredients that we believe is going to be better for you, and it's also going to have the nutrient dense profile within the product.
Now, you guys source from a couple hundred different farms. That's a lot.
Yes. So our model really has been to, in order to be impactful and into the mission that we have, and these are big things that we're going after, is to, in order to do that, we believe you have to have volume. So we work at scale. We go to communities and communities of 200, 300 farmers, and we will buy their whole harvest for 1, 2, or 3 years. We commit to communities that are willing to go through a transitional organic program, communities that are willing to go through a regenerative organic program, and we match with companies or consumers that will value that, right? And we will pay upfront these certifications of, if it's Fair for Life or USD Organic or Regenerative Organic Alliance. We'll also have worked with our agronomists and staff with their leadership team of the co-ops to really analyze the plans, the organic plans, and how to implement it, how to execute it, and how to track it, so we can create a market for those communities. So we believe in order to be impactful to farmers for the countries that we're working at, and for the price point that we want to be able to achieve for them and develop economic growth for them, is being able to commit to them to the stability of a market as they go through all these different programs and improvements.
All right. So you contract with the let's say a village and you're going to buy their product. Then let's say when you're contracting with that, do you you don't pay up front? I'm assuming you just tell them you're going to buy it, and then if it meets the standards, then you're going to buy it. Correct?
So we contracted out for a certain period of time and we pay at front from harvest. So when product is picked up at their farming location, the product is paid, which is very different than regular export deals where the product will be paid not at the farm level, not when the product is processed, but when the product arrives into the US. That's when payment terms usually are for farmers. So that
Oh,
could
wow.
be anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And so we alleviate that by paying upfront, by creating stability of the market, by paying above market price, which I think it's we're setting the standard. And I think with fair trade and fair for life, you're following that. But we believe by providing a market to them is more impactful, because they don't have to go and see where next day where they're going to go and sell their product.
Gotcha. And now, what range of countries do you work with?
We work in South America today, in Peru. Being Peruvian myself, we started working out of communities that I could create a vertical supply chain and make this case study work of the model that we're building at Simpli. Out of Peru, we work with communities that grow quinoa, that is rotationally, the crop rotation for that is lupini beans,
Okay.
chia seeds, and is also rotated with chia seeds with amaranth, which is another Andean grain. And we are expanding to artichokes as well, and creating one of the first scalable transitional organic programs with a community. Artichokes in the market, organic artichokes in the market are very hard to come by, and haven't found a community that is doing it at scale, mainly because of the regions that are grown in. So we're excited to bring that into market. In Brazil, acai, launching in next month with a partnership with the Nature Conservancy that has been working with indigenous communities up in Macapá, the northern part of Brazil, for some years, and the community is ready to enter the export market. And we thought it could be a really great partnership to really access that and for them to have a market for the product that they're growing. In Europe, we work in Greece for the olive oil. We thought that having that item in our portfolio is really important for what we stand for. And we wanted to learn all the different steps and why this item is the most fragrant food item. Kalamata olives, they grow in a similar region as well, and gigante beans up north of Greece, and those are rotated with chickpeas as well. And then Ukraine, we started working out of Ukraine for organic sunflower oil. Sunflower oil being one of the healthiest vegetable oils in the market, and again, it was, the oils is just a very very big market, and a market that vegetable oils are usually labeled as vegetable oils, and that could be soybean, that could be canola, that could be sunflower. And we just wanted to bring what we believe one of the best alternatives, since it's healthier because of the monounsaturated fats in it, single origin, and it's higher smoke point as well.
Hey, thriving farmers, where are you on your thriving farmer journey? So if you go to our website, growingfarmers.com, you can click on the assessment button, and that will take you to a form, ask you a few different questions, and that will help you figure out where you are on the 5-stage thriving farmer journey. And what that does then is kicks you a customized PDF that gives you resources to know exactly what to focus on next in your business to go to the next level. So go to growingfarmers.com and click on the assessment. So that's a cool, quite the range. Now, let's say you're moving into a country. How do you make sure you find the right people? Because obviously, there's a lot of farms you're working with.
So we believe that in order to be successful in the countries we work with, we have to work with the locals and just really understand their thought process and how they're working, have they been working for thousands of years, and just really learn with them and trying to support within the gaps. And the majority of the gaps are going to be in education, in paperwork, and standardization, and formalizing the organization that those farmers have created. So we really have seen that part being really as a value add and accessible to them outside of all the other benefits that we work with. So, but at every country that we work with, we have a country manager that is from Peru, that is from Brazil, that is from Greece, that is from Ukraine, that they speak the local language, but also understands the country's politics, export law, and all the nuance that comes with that. And then within each community, farming community that we work with, we have a community manager that the people of the villages and areas know them. Either, they have grown there, their families have farmers there. So they are a voice of knowledge within the community. And we just partner with them to really create an access to that. And we believe by doing that, we are not imposing, we're just partnering up together to create a better market.
Gotcha. So now you're also working with them to build more regenerative into their business. How does that training work?
For Regenerative Organic, it's an initiative that we are very excited to be part of. Regenerative Organic practices has been something that's been around. The practices themselves have been around for thousands of years from indigenous communities, or the way that they've been managing their land. And we're very excited to be the first South American food company to be Regenerative Organic certified by Regenerative Organic Alliance for some of our items, including quinoa and lupini beans. And this has been a year in the making program with Regenerative Organic Alliance and EcoCert to get to this point. But it has been a really huge learning experience for us, but also for the community. We certified about 270 farmers up in Puno, Peru, which is about 14 to 16,000 feet up. And the majority of the agricultural practice were there. There were some changes maybe with the rotation. We had to integrate a third crop on the rotation side. So beans for the nitrogen, quinoa, and the third is a combination of either wheat or corn on the crop. We also had to implement more infrastructure within this leadership team and just transparency onto how the organization was structured. We had to make some changes into their compost as well, and introducing compost to certain farmers within the community. So there were some adjustments, but the core of it was there. And it was just really being able to align their practices to the certification. And we believe certification is really important, and it's a benefit for them, but it's also a benefit to the consumer, because it is going to educate the consumer to distinguish the quinoa that is on the shelf with a regenerative organic certification versus a quinoa that it doesn't have it and is not impacting the climate change, the biodiversity of its area, or the benefits that comes with regenerative agriculture, healthier soil, and so on. So it is an educated point to the consumer, but also it allows the farmer to continue to keep the practices they're doing, not change them because the market now values that onto what they're doing, right? So I think it really is a really exciting movement. And for us, being able to have that certification and having that education point for the consumer is something really exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so then, okay, so it goes to farmers, and then do you contract that product directly to other people, or does it come into, you guys have like a warehouse and then it goes back out?
We have our warehouse outside of the Port of Baltimore, where we bring containers in directly, and then from our warehouse we distribute them out to our partners and consumers. So by being able to have our own space, we're able to inspect the product that comes in with traceable lots on each container, making sure that the product has the right labeling and lot coding from country of origin, and then being able to do all the inspection in person.
Gotcha. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about, let's say a farmer is interested in getting into the wholesale business. They want to like sell to like someone like these larger suppliers. What kind of things do they need to start thinking about, get set up to make this work?
Mainly, it would be on the traceability, quality, documentation piece. In order to start selling to the bigger players out there, which are going to be your either manufacturers or your co-packers, your ready to eat facilities that are pulling larger volume, significant volume, is being able to have all your documentation in place, either by following all the FDA regulation out there as an import company ourselves, and work in all the right customs paperwork, declaring the goods, but going into deeper into the quality assurance and quality control, specifically where it has been packaged, washed, does it follow any of the NSF programs, which it can be BRC or SQF, is the plant certified with USDA organic, has it gone through an audit of kosher, now Regenerative Organic Alliance being the new one out there, if it's certified for that, gluten-free, Bioterrorism Act, all those things that you have to comply in order to have access to those bigger guys. So quality control, quality assurance, and documentation, being able to back up that all that work and all that good that the farmer has done and has put a time for years to grow that crop, or a year, and has kept all those practices in places, have been tracked, and there's documents to back it up.
Gotcha. Okay. So basically all that has to be put in place before they start selling to someone. Now, what kind of quantities? I mean, I know you talked about, 150 million in purchasing spend, but what kind of quantities are typically coming from an individual farm?
Yeah, so the minimum quantities that of the communities that we work with are a container load. So that would be 44,000 pounds of finished product. But we work with communities that are not there yet. Mm-hmm. And what we do is the transition organic program that we have is, if a community hasn't been formalized, so they don't have a co-op, and a co-op would be a group of farmers that are identified as a group, and they can hold certifications themselves. That's great, but there's so many other farmers out there that are not there yet. They would love to get there, but it's still, still a million miles away to them, because it is a process. So what we do is we identify the community, and if the community has the growth potential, and we know that we can be impactful, and they would like to work with us, then we start working with them, where we directly will outsource a truck and go from farmers' houses to pick up the product, anywhere from 10 to 100 kilos, put it up in our, we check the product at their home, at their farmers, we change it to our Simpli branded bags, and we go from house to house. This process usually takes about 3 weeks. Once we have enough product, which is about 40,000 pounds from that community, then we bring it into processing for export. So, and then with that community selves, we start working on how can we get that community into a co-op level, so that community now can benefit from those certifications or those programs that we can put in place, so they can access a higher export price. So we have those two supply chains set up, because we believe that, again, in order to be impactful, not everyone is going to be at that level. So let's create a channel for them to get there.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, how long have you guys been in the Simpli business?
Simpli is relatively a young company. We started in January 2020, so right before
Wow.
COVID and the pandemic. So um, it was definitely a learning curve and
Yeah.
something that challenged. No, I mean, it challenged everyone's life, and but also Simply as a young company and something we're getting started. So we were focused mainly on food service. With my background being at Cava and knowing the industry quite well, our strategy was to get a few accounts and bring inventory in. We already had the communities that we were working with, and let's get everything going. And we had 3 national accounts that said yes to the program, and we were so excited. We signed them. We brought inventory in March. I remember March, like the March 1st was when the
Yeah.
the first container got in, and we're about to deliver those pallets into their distribution centers, and everything collapsed, right? And no one knew really what was happening, so the product couldn't get delivered, and we had to adjust and grow and really think outside the box or what to do with this inventory you brought in, while being good partners of these 3 new restaurants that we just signed, because they're going through a lot. No one knows what's going on. So we pivoted to meal kit companies, so ready to eat companies, grab and go, which during that time and still today really has taken off. So if you think of your Splendid Spoons or Daily Harvest, HelloFresh, those are the companies that we focused on moving this inventory and just really grow the first year. And then thankfully, restaurant industry came back and we were able to continue to grow into that side of business, and Simply has been able to grow significantly because of that. And I think that small companies that's one of the benefits of just being able to adjust and really think outside the box quickly.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Obviously, as you said, your background, knowing the industry, knowing the people allows you to get, started on the ground and just go from there a lot quicker.
Yeah. It was, yeah, definitely. That definitely helped.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Would you like to share anything else before we go?
Well, first, thank you for having me again. It was a blast talking to you and sharing a little bit of what we're doing here at Simply, by working directly with international farming communities and creating a market for those items that are single origin, nutrient dense, while tackling the fraudulent food activity that we see in global supply chains, and helping combating this climate change that we're all facing one way or the other, and improving the livelihoods of our farmers. So thank you for sharing our story. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, obviously when you're contracting from those farmers, because it's a single source, are you able to give them a better price rate than what's typically happening for them?
Yes, absolutely. We pay above market price than any of our competitors will be coming into that specific farmer. So that's definitely one of the benefits of working with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right. Well, it's great to hear how this is going. And yeah, thanks for all you do.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael. Take care.
Hey, Thriving Farmers, have you checked us out on YouTube lately? We have a bunch of new content there, including a few rants by me. I want to tell you, you don't want to miss them. I actually go rant about, some of the problems I see in our space and some of the challenges I see farmers facing. So go check that out. We've got instructional videos over there as well. Talk about setting up our new farm here in Ohio and all the steps we're going to do that, as well as just tutorials and tips on best practices for all sorts of things on the farm. So go ahead, check over at Growing Farmers on YouTube and see the new content we put together for you. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.